Okay, hello. This is Madodge Productions. We're having a debate this evening regarding which one is better. Is it Norway or is it America? In the red, white, and blue corner, we have Madodge, and in the red and white corner, we have Rat. So please, no low blows, no ad hominems. And if you'd like to start, Rat, you won the toss. We did have a coin toss earlier on. It was all done in a very civilized manner. So, Rat, you got the win. If you would like to bring up your initial case that you establishing that Norway is the finer of the two nations.
Thanks. First of all, just to jump on you a little bit, we also have a red, white, and blue flag, but that's
I'm
completely
sorry,
different.
my bad.
It's Denmark who's red and white.
Yes.
Anyway,
my bad.
So I think that before we start the actual debate, it's important to be able to find a point that we both agree would be the goal of our discussion. What exactly does better mean in terms of society? Seeing as better is a rather subjective word, it's important that we settle the exact terms of what a good result and a good state of a society is, and what a bad result and what a bad state of a society is. And I'm not here to tell anyone really that Norway is perfect. We definitely have our issues that we need to work on, but we are not here to debate which one of the United States or Norway is perfect, because none of them are. Both of our countries have their issues and both of them have their strengths. We're here to debate which of our systems are more sustainable, which one ensures the growth of the nation and its people in the best way, which system that works best for, if not all, then at least most people. I'm of course on Norway's side on this debate because I truly believe that the evidence points in the direction that Norway has a more prosperous system than America. That is not to say that Norway is better at everything or that the United States is bad at everything. It only means that Norway, in my view, has a better system to take care of our inhabitants than the United States has. We see this in so many parts of the society, from happiness reports to healthcare, to education, to crime statistics. One of the things that I want to point specifically out in my intro is healthcare, because I know this is an issue that we disagree on. The number one cause of bankruptcy in the United States is medical bills. You're a country where about a seventh of your population do not have access to healthcare, as opposed to Norway, where everyone is covered. And going on this point, there are even a libertarian argument for single payer in the United States, as a recent study found that the United States will actually save money over a 10-year period with a single payer system. This study isn't an outlier either. It's following a trend. USA is the wealthiest nation of the history of the earth, and yet still it doesn't find the wealth to cover their citizens' healthcare. It doesn't find the wealth to give its citizens higher education, something that is a good investment for the future. Yet still the US finds money every time they want to attack a foreign power. The US is currently bombing 8 countries, and the majority of Americans would probably not be able to name all, if any. And to end this, I need to state that I am very much aware of the differences in population. This isn't really something I will address further, seeing as by that standard, no country is really comparable. We're talking about the systems itself.
Okay, are you concluding your time there? You still have 1 minute and 30 seconds. Okay,
yeah, I think,
you're done. Yeah. You're done. Okay. So, I mean, it is reframing, because obviously better is a very subjective term, like you said. But Madodge, your initial introduction, if you want to present it.
All right. The United States of America has been known as the shining beacon on the hill, the land of liberty and freedom. Millions of immigrants throughout the decades have come together to make America what it is. the world's leading power, not only in a military aspect, sir, but also in free thought, expression, and freedom of speech. We are the world's leading economy by far. The United States has come to the aid of her allies in their darkest hour, not once, but in both world wars. Like it or not, we are the world's police. When something happens anywhere in the world, they come calling to us. They call upon the strength of the American people, her armed forces. Yes, Rat, I concede we have bases all over the world, but we are not an empire, sir. We are there at the behest of the country which we protect. We even hold joint exercises with countries like, Norway. Like it or not, if the United States were to pack up and go home, you would not be better off. Though, in my opinion, the United States and her people would be. That being said, we are not without our problems, many of which I'm sure my opponent will be attempting to shed light upon. But I ask, once again, would the world be better off without us? And again answer with a resounding no. You talk about healthcare. We have everybody not insured, but if you get a heart attack, you can go to the hospital. You can get seen. You will have your life saved. Will you go into a little bit of debt? Perhaps. But you can work your way out of it because you're still alive. You want to talk about free college? There is no free lunch. Somebody pays for that, sir, whether through high taxation, high corporate tax rates, or a number of other ways. We already give millions of dollars to people all around the world. We help Israel in their time of need, even to this very day. We have bases still in Germany, because they don't want us to leave, sir. They want the strength and protection of America, the land of the free and the home of the brave. And I say America is the best country on earth. And I say Norway needs her help as well. I conclude and give you the rest of my time.
Okay, well that's only taken 5 minutes for the initial introduction. Rat, would you like to do a rebuttal to the assertions that Mad Dodge has made?
Yes, I would.
Okie doke. Away you go.
Thing about the American, what some people, including me, would call an empire, is that you are currently, you do have the military bases around the world. Now, not everyone sees that as a necessity. Now, I could agree that, Norway needs America's help in case the Russians attack, but I don't believe that Russia will attack Norway. Now, going back to that point, you guys do have over 900 military bases around the world, where you can't really say how many you have because a bunch of them are secrets. Now, with that said, I don't really understand what the point you're trying to make, because you're saying that there's no such thing as a free lunch, and that's fine, someone has to pay for it, but also someone has to pay for the 900 military bases. You have the highest military budget in the world by far. Your military budget is larger than the 10 next nations on that list, whereas a very big majority of those 10 countries are your allies, and that's not really necessary. Why not take a portion of that money and make your healthcare into a single payer system where everyone is covered? You say that everyone, if you have a heart attack, you can go to the emergency room and you will get help, and maybe you'll be in debt. But why not say, you have a heart attack, you go to the emergency room, you get help, and then you're not in crippling debt after? I don't understand why it is so important that the capital controls everything, so that if you survive a heart attack, you will live the rest of your days in debt to insurance companies or to hospital due to healthcare bills. Just calling the ambulance in the United States ranges from about $200 $200 and upwards towards, I think some states have it at like $1,400. So whereas in Norway, if you call the ambulance, you will not have to pay a penny for that, because it's expected of the state that if you live in Norway, then you need help, then you will get that. And that's something I believe that a majority of Americans that have the view that taxation is theft, they mostly have that because they don't really see a return on their tax investment. Most of their money goes to foreign wars, metal in foreign countries where they will never see their money. Whereas if even with your tax rate, you would be able to pay for school, pay for healthcare, if you just restructure the way that your country works. Now, what's the
just
point?
1 second, Rat. I just want to clarify to Madoj. It's 5 minutes for the rebuttal as well as, the introduction. You both forfeited different amounts of time, and so that will be added to the rebuttal period, just so make it clear. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm almost finished.
You still have, well, no, you still have a minute and 40 seconds to go.
Yeah. I'll basically conclude with, what's the point of paying taxes if that doesn't go back into your own survival? And I'm done.
Okay, well, yeah, in my rebuttal here, I was trying to leave my politics at the door in this debate and actually argue apples to apples instead of what I want the United States to be. But since you want to bring my political ideologies into this, then I will rebut that. Yeah, there is a lot of people in the United States who do not like the fact that the United States of America has military bases all around the world. As I said in my opener, sir, that we can come home. I want us to come home. I want us to come home immediately. Leave you guys high and dry. Fuck off. You're on your fucking own. When Russia does get a ball sack, because they will, once the United States pulls back and goes home, Russia and China will fill the power vacuum. Instead of the good old US of A as your world's police, you now have Putin or Merkel or whatever the fuck the dude's name is in China running your shit, running everything in the world, policing the trade routes, making sure we don't go into a nuclear oblivion. Do you really want to trust the keys to the car to the 8-year-old girl? Because that's what you're trying to do. You're taking one country that is the most powerful country in the world. Why? Because we spend the most on defense, just like you said. And our allies spend a lot also. Even Norway. We did joint exercises with you. I covered that article. You guys like our help when it's convenient, but you can sit from your pulpit and call us a devil. Well, I say, no, sir. We're not the devil in the room. We are the conscience on your shoulder. We are the ones that have to deal with the mess that the French leave behind, that any other country leaves behind. The fact that Norway hardly has a military at all, do you think that would happen without an American sphere of influence? I don't. What about the NATO protection you guys have? I mean, look at all of these. And yeah, there is no free lunch. What I mean by that, you try to take the gigantic population of America, which is very large compared to yours, and you try and run a complete single-payer healthcare system and have free universities for all. That means free Harvard for all. That means Stanford is free. That means fucking, not DeVry, that's a stupid university, but you know what I'm saying. Any of these Ivy League schools with giant tuition costs. You want the government to pay all of that for? I'm going to school right now. Yes, I am taking loans, but I have to pay them back at an exorbitant interest rate. Why am I willing to do that? Because I believe a degree will help me in whatever I want to do in the future. I'm willing to take that risk myself. It's called being independent from the state. It's called being your own human being. Because when the government can take care of your health, then they can tell you can't have a Mountain Dew, or you can only have 3 beers a week, or you can't have any fucking beer at all. Or, hey, you're smoking a cigarette, we're not going to take you in, or we're going to put you at the back of the line at the hospital and watch you die while we take care of the younger, healthier person. We're going to start stacking ambulances outside once they start regulating that. That way, they're not necessarily really in the emergency room, are they? This is all problems that happen in the UK with pretty much a single-payer system. That's what you want the United States to devolve into? I reject that. I think that's a horrible idea. And I want you to show me the libertarians that are arguing for this, because I will smack the shit out of them. They are fucking morons. And I'm not talking about you being a moron. I'm talking about a libertarian who would argue in favor of a government-controlled single-payer system. That is mind-boggling to me. I've never heard of one. Okay. Norway reaps the benefit of the United States of America and then points her finger at it. Defend that. I conclude my time.
Okay. Well, by the way, don't bring Britain into it. This is meant to be about Norway, not Britain.
Great Britain.
We can have that argument another day.
All right. Great Britain is a representation of the single-payer system. I believe it's a valid.
I understand it as a reference point, but yeah, let's try and keep it within the context of the conversation. Okay, so well, that's the initial introductions and rebuttals. I guess now we go to open questions. If anyone in the chat's got a question that you'd like to pose, please do. I'm keeping an eye on it. In the meantime, gentlemen, open forum.
Okay, so I want to respond a little bit to what you said about NATO. The thing about NATO is that we are meant to be an alliance. Now, the support for NATO is rather high in Norway, but we do have some parties that want out of it. But that's a completely different issue. My point is that we are all the nations of NATO are sworn to protect each other. Now, you can obviously make a point that not everyone is paying as much as they should. Now, I would agree with that. Even Norway doesn't actually pay as much as they should, and that's one of the sort of things that I can say that would be a point of improvement for Norway to do. Now, thing is, I don't want the state to finance Harvard, for example. That's not a part of the debate. The part is for community colleges, for what's the English word? For public colleges, not for Ivy League and private colleges. You can have your private colleges and still have a system where the poorest people won't be dragged into debt for the rest of their lives. And the thing about the debt that they get from education in the United States is that you guys can't even file for bankruptcy on that.
Yes, that is true. There is no bankruptcy for.
So I can respond now.
Yes,
I'm trying to play by the rules.
No. As I said, no. Now we're in open forum, mate. You know, you've had your introductions and rebuttals. Now it's free form. Okay,
I do want to talk about NATO then a little bit. If you can't afford to pay your 2% GDP to NATO and you are still getting the benefits of it while you're simultaneously having a single-payer healthcare system and free college, I think there's a goddamn problem here, and maybe Norway should leave the alliance.
I personally think that we do have the money to pay for the alliance. So, but that's the point where the politicians of Norway would go against what I think is important. So that's why I'm not really arguing that, because I agree with you on the fact that we should pay 2% and we have the money to do so.
Okay, well, when we say free college within the American system, I'm looking at what Bernie Sanders said, and he was talking about universities, sir. Universities are not community colleges. They are two separate things, just like trade schools aren't community colleges or university. They're trade schools. He's saying university. The University of Oregon The University of Stanford. Stanford is not Ivy League, but it's damn good and it's damn expensive.
Yeah, but here's the thing. I'm not arguing for Bernie Sanders' political views. I'm arguing for mine.
Well, no, you're talking about America actually implementing free college. Therefore, the way we would implement it here is through our politicians. The politicians that are wanting to implement it are telling you that they want universities.
Here's the thing. You are misreading what I'm saying. I'm arguing for a system where you could go over to where your colleges are your public colleges are paid for over the tax dollar. I'm not arguing
but I thought this debate was apples to apples, where we're talking about what's really going on right now in the political system. In the United States, we wouldn't do that right now. The only project on the table for free college is the Bernie Sanders plan. So that's what I have to use as my frame of reference. I can't use yours as the frame of reference because we wouldn't implement it here. Just like I can't use the Second Amendment on you because there's no way in hell your constitutional monarchy, which I looked it up. I have some sites comparing Norway to America, by the way, and I have some crime statistics you might find very interesting. But no, we got to compare this within the political climate of each country and actually implementing the political ideal and how it would happen. I think.
Yeah. Well, if I might interrupt here, I think that the initial point that Rat made at the beginning was really the definition of this so-called better. What makes it better? Surely it's got to be an element of quality of life for the average citizen. I just wanted to put that in there. I would have thought.
Okay. No, you're the moderator. Add anything you want. Cut us off and mute us. That's your job. But no. The thing is, okay, what makes America better for the quality of life than Norway? I believe the Constitution does. And yes, you have a constitution, Rat. I looked into it, but you are a constitutional monarchy. I don't trust any monarchy. I don't want anybody who can actually take their power back and dismiss Parliament. The president cannot do that in the United States of America. We have a representative republic. Therefore, we send people up to represent our best interests. Therefore, our quality of life has increased dramatically since the founding of America to now. Look at the difference. How exactly has Norway increased, other than the fact that you guys raped and pillaged all of Europe for 300 years and then disappeared for a while?
Oh, I think that's a bit tenuous.
Okay, to answer that, the king does not have unlimited power of the Constitution. Part of our Constitution is actually to limit the king's power, so that he can veto something, but it can only do it for so long. Now, talking about the quality of life.
Well, no, real quick, I want to apologize about the ad hom. I really wanted to get a Viking joke in there, so I hope I didn't go below the belt too bad.
I just wanted to.
I saw it as being in good spirit. And you guys committed genocide in North America as well, so we're even on that one. But
oh, okay, all right.
No, but about the quality of life, I would say that something that makes our quality of life so good is that we know that if we get sick, we get cared for. Like I said, if you have a heart attack on the middle of the street, it will cost you money to get picked up by an ambulance in the United States. A lot of people choose to take a taxi instead, and that it shouldn't be that way. You have socialism for your fire department and your police department, so why not for your healthcare as well? Now, I'm not, just to point it out, I'm not trying to argue that you guys should become a socialist nation. Norway isn't a socialist nation, and I was earlier advised to mention that we are still a capitalist nation, but just with a lot of social programs. But we can't go medically bankrupt in Norway because we don't have that issue at all. there are studies that says that Norway are a lot more free than America, and I have some sources for that. Our democracy is working better. We have more freedom of the press, and we self-report as more happy. I'm not, like I said earlier, I'm not trying to shit on the United States. I've been to the United States, like I said, a bunch of times before, and I really like it. You guys are some of the most hospitable, that's the word? Yeah, you guys are some of the most hospitable people I've ever met. But I'm not arguing against the American people. I'm arguing against the American system.
Could I ask you a question here, Rad? Regarding, I mean, for example, what is your the current Norwegian population? What is it, about 20,
I think
30 million?
I think we're about 5.2 million.
5.2, okay. Now, you also have enormous oil reserves sitting in the North Sea, and you have the sovereign fund. You know, now, America doesn't have an equivalent of that as well. I mean, you're saying regarding the spending, which America does, but it does it with the, you know, obviously based on productivity.
Yeah.
But you have a natural resource which provides you with an imbalance, shall we say, within that region. You know, within that the economic perspective, especially like you said, considering that, you know, you're 2%, you know, to NATO and things like that. So yeah. I just wondered if you could comment on, you know, how you think that is going to put a disproportionate, you know, capability for Norway to do what it does as opposed to what America can do.
Yeah. Okay. So here's the thing. America, like Maddox actually alluded to, the entire world economy is basically based around the American one, and that's not a lie. That's very much true. America is the wealthiest country that has ever existed. Like, the Roman Empire doesn't even come close. And so I just think it's interesting that the wealthiest country that has ever existed can turn around, and the country that always says that they're the greatest country on earth, but they can turn around and say that, oh, we can't do what Slovenia does, or Norway does, or Sweden does, or fucking, you know, the United Kingdom, for that sake. But those aren't part of the debate, so I'll refrain from using them as examples going further. Yeah, we do have our oil reserves, and our state was actually quite smart when we found them, basically claiming them for the Norwegian state. Now, some people would say that sounds rather authoritarian. And yeah, if you just say it like that, then yeah, it could be construed that way. But here's the thing. Let's say that the Norwegian state didn't do that, and then one family suddenly ends up owning all of our oil fields, and then we would still be like development country rate, as compared to when the Norwegian state said, sorry, this isn't for the private citizens in the way that you can't own the oil fields. However, we are going to use these reserves in order to make the playing field as even for everyone as possible, so that a true meritocracy
even as dictated by the government. And if you want to talk about how the point of this is, you know, who is the happier society, basically, right? You know, the quality of life. Well, isn't living quality of life? And I say it is. I would like to point to the suicide statistics. Did you know Norway ranks 19th in the world in suicides? It is very high. The United States, 26th. And the United States, this is by Kappa. So Norway has a high suicide rate. If they're all going to college and skiing on the weekends and having free health care, why are they killing themselves on Friday?
Yeah, I actually knew this was going to come up because I know about the Norwegian suicide rates, and that seems to be a very much statistical anomaly compared to the self-reported happiness, of course. Now,
no, fair enough. That's a statistical anomaly, just like gun violence is in America. I'll concede that if you concede the same.
I'm not going to. I wasn't planning on talking about gun violence in America because gun violence isn't necessarily it isn't necessarily a sign that your country is doing bad because of the Second Amendment or something like that. But I actually have other sources that would state that the suicide rate of Norway is lower than the
if you would like to see my source, I will gladly share it. It's the Washington Post,
sure.
actually. But okay, and go ahead and continue. I only cut you off to tell you I'll get you the link right now. I'll put it in the side chat.
Yeah, definitely. No, I'm not really. I sort of lost my train of thought. Yeah,
you were saying about the quality of life.
The fact that we self-report as more happy isn't necessarily a good measure of how our quality of life is, and I actually, I can see that, and which is why I used it at the end of my sort of tirade, and I used it just to sort of in a way where it could just supplement the other things that I mentioned. Now, our media, like, there are so many things that goes into what is quality of life. It's everything from how happy you are to how free you are, of course, and everything. But there's the thing. I feel that when we're talking about the United States compared to Norway, what I sort of hear from you, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but what I sort of hear from you is almost this notion that no one else is free except for the United States.
Do you have a king? Yes or no?
Yeah, we do have a king.
Then I say you're not free. And I say the same thing to Cabbage about the queen. I say you either go all the way monarch or you get rid of the monarchy completely. You chop their heads off, so to say. French resistance. Viva la resistance.
No, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. The Norwegian monarchy is more or less only symbolic. I
don't care. No, that symbol is a symbol of tyranny. Get rid of it. No, I don't care.
But here's if I can further my point, I am in favor of Norway becoming a republic. But it's just, we're not that right now. But to be honest, the Norwegian king doesn't do very much of importance in the way that he's a symbol for our country.
Really? Wait a minute. No.
I would have to pull you to task on this one, because what you just suggested is exactly the same reasoning that is being used to pull down all of those statues.
No, this is a living. Okay. No, this is a living. This is a living.
Exactly, it's a living embodiment. Exactly. You want to tear that down.
Check it out. Check it out. This is what the king can do.
History.
This is what the king could do in Norway. And this is through nationmaster.com, United States and Norway compared directly. He can appoint, or no, he does appoint all Supreme Court justices directly. They're not nominated and put up. They're just directly supported. So if the Supreme Court there works like it does here, then he can directly appoint lifetime people that will think the way the monarchy does. In a way, it's a reach around behind the parliament and controlling the country still.
I want to point out something about the Norwegian king and the Norwegian monarchy. First of all, the Norwegian royal family was actually elected into power when they first came here. And he is a symbol of the freedom of Norway in the way that we got free from the Danish and the Swedish unions. So, which, by the way, were super oppressive against Norwegians, but that's, again, a very different topic. The Norwegian king, he meets with the government every Friday, whereas they basically tell him what they are planning to propose and whatever. Now, the Norwegian king doesn't, like I said, it doesn't really intervene in Norwegian politics. He is more like a collecting figurehead So that, for example, when we had our terror attack in 2011, he was a symbol for Norwegians that we could still hold together and pull through this thing. And he was a very important symbol. Whereas a president, like it or not, will always be someone's splitting character, because half the country-ish, or it obviously depends, but half the country-ish didn't vote for him or her. Now, I'm not saying that, like I said, I'm against the monarchy on principle, because I don't believe that anyone should be born into power. But with that being said, the Norwegian king isn't really all that powerful.
How powerful is your Supreme Court?
Well, you see, here is one of the fundamental questions, and again, we have a monarchy here. Can the king be called to the courts?
Can you repeat that?
Can your king be called into the courts to stand charges?
No. However, we can get rid of our king whenever we want. We can vote him out. That's one of the parts of our freedom. We can, if the Norwegian people don't want a king anymore, then we vote him out of the castle, basically. Well, I just want to mention that
hang on, what? You can vote him out, so you have effectively an elected king. I didn't know. That's not a monarchy.
Exactly.
Just a president.
No, but I also want to point out that, like I said, the king has the right to veto anything that the government comes up with. He hasn't used that right in like 70 years, since World War II. So he only had, like in recent modern times, he's only used that during World War II in order to, he didn't want to give our country to the Nazis.
Okay. Well, no, I want to respond to two things. One, okay, I still want to know how powerful the Supreme Court is, so please answer that for me, because he directly appoints them. And two, I've had this argument with Cabbage, or discussion actually, when it was with Cabbage. Even if they don't use their power, they still have it. And that is a problem to me. They can still do whatever they want, and they are above the law, as you just clarified for us. So that being said, you can't prosecute them if they kill a newborn baby right before your fucking eyes and stab it and eat it. Like, you can't do anything. They are above the law. That fundamentally, to me, born into a republic, born into a republic, that is abhorrent. Now, also, you said that the presidency of the United States splits the country. Well, if you voted your king out, wouldn't that split yours? Go ahead.
Of course it would. But okay, so if the king were to show up in the street tomorrow and, you know, murder someone, then I am actually pretty sure that he could be prosecuted for that. He can't be prosecuted for speeding, but that's
doesn't drive. So
yeah, it doesn't really drive around. Now, when it comes to
no. The question I asked was, can he be compelled to attend a court? Can he actually be compelled? That's the core of the question. Because if he can't be compelled, then he is above the law.
If it's okay for you,
can he be summoned?
I am going to check up on that, because I'm not really sure how the monarchy works in that sense, because it's not really something that happens. So,
you see, they can be invited over here. The Queen can be invited to attend, you know, but I do not believe that she can technically be compelled to. It is Her Majesty's court anyway.
I wanted to answer the question about the Supreme Court. So our system, I believe, like the American system, is sort of a threefold system, with the whole executive branch, legislative branch, and what's the last one in English?
The executive, the judicial, yeah. So you're talking about the three columns, you mean?
Yeah.
3 columns of government. Yeah.
So it's the judicial,
judicial, a legislative, and an executive branch.
Okay. So the judicial branch, which obviously is headed by the Supreme Court, is in Norway. They're there to look after the fact that our government does its job properly and that they follow the constitution and that they follow the other laws that we have. Other than that, they're not really all powerful. They're more or less the bitch of our parliament.
The Supreme Court is, but are they lifetime appointees? Is what my point is. And if they are, then that is a dramatic power that the king has, because the judicial branch, the Supreme Court of the United States of America, they are there forever. We're still stuck with fucking that old bitch Goonsberg or whatever the fuck her name is. She's going to sleep on the fucking bench. Like, we can't get rid of her. If the king can stack a court any way he wants, that is a dramatic power that the president does not have. Yes, the president can not appoint, but select somebody to be appointed. But then they go through a grilling in Congress, and they can be rejected. Then the president has to choose again. That balances out the court. That way they're not dramatically conservative or dramatically liberal in the American sense of liberal, not libertarian.
Yeah.
But you get what I'm saying. That is a drastic power.
So
Gentlemen, just to point out, we are going into the last 5 minutes of the open debate, and then we will be looking at conclusions. So you might be wanting to jot down some notes.
So the thing, this devolved very much into a debate about, the monarchy versus republic, and I'm really doing devil's advocate, seeing as I'm a favorite of a republic, but the king can be punished. So I would imagine that he is, like, they can summon him. Yeah. With that being said, I'm not 100% sure because, like I said, I'm not really too read up on that part, to be honest.
Basically, was skin.
Now, talking about the Supreme Court and how it can be stacked, the Norwegian king is not a political figure. Now, with that said, obviously everyone has their political minds and whatnot, but the Norwegian king is not he is not partaking in politics. I'm pretty sure he's not even allowed to partake in politics. I'm not even sure he's allowed to vote. So when he is basically making up who is on the Supreme Court, you can be pretty sure that that's going to be a fair and balanced way of picking it out. And also, it's no one in America has less power than the king, to be honest.
Yeah. Well, I think we've thrashed this idea of, okay, royalty, not something, Madoj, you approve of. But again, can we return to the topic in hand, which is, the relative... I understand why you brought it up in terms of what you perceive to be a good or bad country. But we were talking about how it's better to be, I suppose, maybe better to be an American than it's better to be a Norwegian.
Yes. No, and it is better to be American because of the Republic, but I will go away from that.
Mm-hmm.
I still want to return back to the suicide rates. I do perceive that a quality of life is actually living. You know what I mean? So if you're offing yourself at record numbers, that's a bad thing, and there's something systemic wrong in the country. Our suicide rates in America have gone up drastically recently. And we're trying to figure out what the problem is. Even though we're all connected to the internet, we all have fancy microphones, fucking smartphones in our pockets, fancy cars, and we're still killing ourselves. But Norway is doing it even higher, and they're a smaller country. And they have all this free stuff, which is not free. I get it. You guys do pay a lot of taxes. I understand that. which I don't want to pay. That's why I don't want the free stuff. I want to earn the stuff for myself. I believe being an individual, not subservient to the state, in of itself, is why America is better than almost anywhere around the world.
Now, here's the thing. Like I said, you almost presented as if Norwegians aren't free, but we actually, I have a source here that actually points out that Norwegians are generally more free than Americans, but like we do actually have more freedom. We have a better democracy. Like these are actual polls that I can show you.
Do you have the freedom of speech, or the freedom to bear arms, or the freedom of due process?
Our constitution points out freedom of speech, or at least freedom of expression, which goes in under freedom of speech. Now
yes and no. Nowadays they're trying to conflate the two. I just want to correct you. Go ahead. The chat said I cut you off too much already. I apologize. Sorry.
Yeah, it's fine. The freedom to bear arms, yeah, we do. In Norway, there are registered 1.5 million private guns. All you have to do is basically go to take a what do you call it? Hunter's course, and you don't even have to hit anything during that course, and then you can go buy a gun after. In my opinion, it might be too easy, but here's the thing: as long as people don't hurt each other, then why not? So yeah, the reason I didn't touch too much on guns earlier is that we've had the gun debate a couple times already, and I don't really see a way for that to be.
But
well, in terms of
sorry, you're the moderator.
Yeah, I mean, again, in terms of it, yeah, I mean, it is maybe an issue. If you value guns that much, then that might be part of your quality of life. But I don't think that necessarily falls under the auspices of this. We have gone to 30 minutes now. It's 30 minutes and 20 seconds. So we're looking towards the summarizing to bring your thoughts to a conclusion. Have you been convinced otherwise, or do you still stand by your convictions? So, well, Rat went first last time, so that means you go first this time, Matt.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'll fill up a whole 5 minutes, but yes, I stand firm on my convictions. I still believe the United States is a shining beacon on the hill, the place where everybody wants to go, and the immigration rates prove it, even illegally. They all want to come here. Why? Because we are the most free country on earth, because we do have the rights enumerated within the Constitution. The right to bear arms is a big issue. That's why I brought it up. Really, if you don't have the right to defend yourself from either your neighbor trying to rob you or the government coming to kill you, then what freedom do you really have? And to me, quality of life equates to freedom, which is why I attack the monarchy so hard. I really do believe that the republic that we have, even if it is a federal republic that I disagree with vehemently on many fucking issues, but I'm allowed to disagree with it. Why? Because I have these freedoms that the republic grants. Yes, Norway is a constitutional monarchy, which I attack, but they also have a lot of freedom as well. But when it comes to quality of life and free stuff equating to good quality of life, which I believe was my opponent's assertion, I showed you suicide rates. I did that in an attempt to show that giving out free college and giving out free stipends of money to people, I'm not quite sure if they do that there. I believe it's Sweden that does that. But just this free benefits, this whole idea that the government owes me and I don't owe myself, because I don't believe the people owe the government either. But you own yourself, therefore you owe yourself the right to stand up and be an individual and make something of yourself. You don't need the government to give you free college. You could take the loans or you could save up money. There's many different ways to do it. I'm doing online school right now, and I'm paying for it. Why? Because I want the piece of paper that says I have a bachelor's in history. That's why. and I'll pay the money for it. I can get the same information free on the internet, but I digress. I don't think Norway's system of handouts is really making a better quality of life because they're killing themselves. And what else? I mean, they are a modern nation. Why is their suicide rate so high for such a tiny country? I really don't understand this. And the idea of better was brought down to quality of life. So I don't think free healthcare is good either, because one, the United States could never do a single payer system. We are too large. It would be too much of a burden. We can't even handle the Social Security system. That's failing. Hell, the free fucking benefits for the veterans, the people that risk their lives to protect the whole world, we can't even pay for that. We can't even give them quality care. They sit there or they go crazy from freaking, PTSD. Like my good friend with Iraq came home and went through the veteran system. It didn't help him. It really didn't. He had to go to a private clinic to actually get help. So government doing the job never works. Government fucks everything up it touches. And I'm going to wrap it up with Reagan. The scariest words in the English language. I'm from the government and I'm here to help. Welcome to Norway. Good night and good luck.
Okay. Okay, Rat. Stick it to him.
Okay. You mentioned the freedom to protect yourself in the end here, and I need to point out we do have the freedom and we do have the right to protect ourselves. If someone busts into my house right now, I have actually legal right to attack that person. Like I said, there are a bunch of studies that says that a single-payer healthcare system would be cheaper for the United States than the system you guys are currently in. You would save anywhere from 250 billion to 13 trillion, I think it is, dollars over a course of 10 years. Now, that's the healthcare part. Yeah, we do have alarming suicide rates, but I don't think that is something. What can I say? I don't think that it's so that we get free healthcare and free college and whatever, and yet still people are killing themselves. I think there are reasons into why people are killing themselves that maybe I'm not really qualified to answer. But I do think that honestly, having the option of going to school and actually getting your life somewhere, having the option to go to a hospital if you suddenly find a lump in your chest is fine. And also, I need to point out something that I didn't remember before now. Norway has a higher social mobility, upwards social mobility, than the United States has. You can say that, yeah, but we have very, few people compared to the United States. That's fine. But that doesn't change the fact that it's easier to become rich in Norway than it is under a very a less regulated system as in the United States. It sounds backwards, but it's because even the poor people in Norway start on a good ground. And that's my whole point. We all strive towards meritocracy. And the way to achieve a meritocracy is that everyone starts on equal grounds. And like it or not, the United States are have more inequality than Norway does when it comes to this. I want to point out a story about a guy in New York that won the lottery. He won like $1 million in the lottery. I've mentioned this before on the stream. And then he was asked, what are you going to do with this money? And he was like, yeah, I'm finally going to pay off a little bit of my house loan. And then, I've been feeling sick a little bit lately. So I'm finally going to go to the doctors because, I can finally afford it. He went there, got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer and died a week later. I'm not saying that people don't die in Norway. I don't say that people don't get cancer in Norway. But I'm saying that if you guys had a single-payer healthcare system, then this guy could go to the hospital way earlier because he couldn't afford it earlier. He could have gone to the hospital earlier. They could have caught the cancer and he could have lived. Now that's an anecdote, I know that, but that's only one out of roughly 45,000 people a year. That's like the size of a small city in Norway. 45,000 people die for lack of healthcare a year in the United States, somewhere between 38 and 45,000. That doesn't happen in other Western countries. That doesn't happen in other industrialized countries. It just doesn't.
Oh, 1 minute, Rat.
I want to end by saying that Madoj, it's been a pleasure. Like I said, I like the United States a lot. There are a lot of things, especially your freedom of speech is something to admire. But I just don't think that freedom of speech itself makes a good enough point. Like obviously I'm very much for freedom of speech. That's all my channel is about. But I'm just saying you need more to have a good and stable nation. And I'm done.
Okay. Yeah, good timing. We still had 15 seconds left, but let's leave it there, shall we?
Norway rules! Okay, there.
Yes, that was okay. Well, make of that what you will, people.